Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, mole mule wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Luminary, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Himalaya, Ghana, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Aris Roberts. He's a 16-year-old and he is the author of Bizzy's Wings. Before we invite Aris into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Astra, the Lonely Airplane, written by Julie Whitney. This book is a true labor of love. It was written by Julie after her husband lost his job as a pilot during the pandemic. This rhyming picture book for children ages 3 to 10 teaches them about flying, math, geography, overcoming difficult situations, and most of all, having hope. It comes with a 2-page glossary and a 3-minute video of Captain Dan giving kids a tour of the real Astra. It can be ordered online at Amazon and at bookstores from coast to coast and internationally. And you know, if you go to your local bookstore, which we encourage, you can just ask them, hey, do you have Astra, the Lonely Airplane by Julie Whitney? No? Could you order it, please? I bet you it'll be there in like a day or two. Yeah. You can learn more about Astra, the Lonely Airplane by visiting AstraTheLonelyAirplane.com. Join us right now from Northern Virginia, one of my favorite places in the world. Our guest today is here to celebrate his debut children's picture book. It's called Bizzy's Wings. Please welcome to the show, Aris Roberts. Hey, Aris, how are you?
Hi, I'm very excited to be on the podcast and to share my book, Bizzy's Wings.
I'm excited to have you on. You're not the youngest author that we've had on, but you are pretty young. You're 16 years old. You're a junior in high school. Where did you find the time, before we start talking about Bizzy's Wings, where did you find the time to write a children's book?
So my brother and I actually created the idea while I was a sophomore, so last year, and we thought about it during summer break. We were wondering how to tap into a younger audience of students and children, and we thought summer break, we have time, so I think we should get to planning, and the children's book is what we came up with.
Awesome. Now, tell us about Bizzy's Wings, because it's not just a children's book. There's a whole lot going on in your life.
Yes, so Bizzy's Wings isn't just about a normal bee. She is a bee with a virus called Deformed wing syndrome. So every bee has wings, and she has wings that are a little stubbier, and they aren't as functional as other bees' wings. So she can associate with everyone, because everyone has had a time in their life when they've not been able to do something as well as others, and this is where Bizzy comes into character, and she really does a great job in the story to show how she climbs over that obstacle.
Yeah. That's so important for kids, because I think, and you're certainly closer to being a kid than I am. I mean, I'm almost 100 years old, but I remember that there were times, that we would look out and we would think, oh man, all of my friends, they have it all together. Their life is perfect. Everything is perfect. And me, I'm too short. I'm not fast. I don't sing well. I'm ugly. And I think that that's what every kid kind of goes through at some point in their lives.
Exactly. Everyone has been there, and that's where Bizzy just resonates with you. That's how I created her.
Yeah. So why a bee? You have a love for bees. I don't know a lot of guys in sophomore, junior in high school that have a fascination and connection with bees. What was it about bees in you?
So I've been interested in insects since I was, I don't even know, 3, 4 years old, since I think I could walk outside by myself. And funny enough, my passion for insects and taking care of them started with crickets. I brought 18 of them into the house, and my mom said it was okay, and then little do we know, they all escaped that night, and I was 6 years old, and they lived in the house ever since. So that's where it started there.
Yeah, having had a cricket living in my house at one time, that is, it's kind of cute at first, for about the first 10 minutes. And then when they don't stop chirping, it gets very annoying.
I agree. And beekeeping, that's a different story, though.
Yeah.
That's
So you are a beekeeper, correct?
Yeah, we have 24 hives just outside, and it's on our farm. So we live on a small farm in Virginia, and my brother's in college right now, but my dad and I take care of the apiary. We're out there quite often, and it's really fun. And if you're afraid of bees, then it's still a fine job. You only get stung a couple times when you go out there.
Well, being allergic to these things, I don't know if I could join you out there, but bees really are fascinating, and they are vital. This is hard. This was hard for me to grasp when I first heard it. Humans can't survive without bees. Am I right about that?
Oh, you're completely right about that. Bees are essential to everyday meals. I think the statistic is bees pollinate and help produce 80% of the food that we eat on our plates, like, per year. And and they are pollinators. Butterflies do it as well, but bees are a main source of pollination throughout the world, not just in the U.S. And even this is a market that is pursued in the U.S. So it's a great. Bees are very important to our livelihood.
Yeah. We've talked about different pollinators here on the show, bats and butterflies, but bees are like the superheroes in this field.
Bees are the superhero. They really do a great job. They're almost all year round, except for, I would say, winter. And since you can have so many of them, and they're able to be kept and maintained. We, as beekeepers, know that our bees are pollinating this tree, these flowers around. So we are able to control what gets pollinated, when it gets pollinated, and that's a crucial part of the food industry.
Mm-hmm. This is really fascinating. Now, I know there are different types of bees. And you said you had 25 hives?
25 hives.
25 hives. Is it all the same species of bees on your farm?
Yeah, so like you said, there are many different types of bees in the world. You have bees in Asia, and you have bees in Europe, and there are no local U.S. bees, and that's where the European honeybees come into play, especially the Italian honeybees, which we keep on our farm. And they're the best for honey production because they are just great at getting honey, producing it, storing it in the hives. And with 25 hives, they create and we harvest around 1,000 pounds of honey a year.
Wow, 1,000 pounds of honey. That's incredible.
It's quite impressive what they do, and it's delicious.
Yeah, and Italian. I love Italians. It makes perfect sense that they're such great honey makers. One of the things that I heard, and one of the reasons I'm talking about this is because I think this is all knowledge that families can talk about when they're reading Bizzy's Wings. Just talking about the different bees and helping kids, in addition to, seeing the story of Bizzy's resilience, but also because you probably remember kids love to read the same book over and over and over again. And the best way to deal with that is to read a book in a different way. And, in one reading you can talk about the resiliency, and the next reading you can talk about bees and about all these different species of bees. One of the things, and I don't know if your family is involved with it, but I heard that bees can actually be rented out. You can, if a farmer needs bees on his farm, you can bring your hive over there and let them do their job and pollinate the plants on that farm.
Yeah, so we personally don't take part in that, but it's a really important part of having bees, like apple orchards, all sorts of pollinated crops need bees. And there are specific beekeepers who have hundreds of hives. They set them up and they drive them cross country just so that farmers can have their crops pollinated. And this is one different use of the bees. We keep them locally and have their honey, but bees are used for so many different sorts of uses.
Yeah. What was it like for you the first time you put on the suit? I'm guessing you put on the suit and you get the smoker out there and then you're harvesting the honey. How old were you and what was that like?
So I was 8th grade. It was a day after school. We decided we were getting mentored because we didn't really know how to start this whole process. So it was a day after school. I went over, this experienced beekeeper came out and he told us, okay, we're going to get started. So I put on the bee suit, put on the veil, zipped it so tight that I knew a bee wouldn't get in there, made sure it was around my waist, and I was preparing myself mentally, I think, to get stung a ton. And we went in there and it was quite relaxing and quite fun because the bees, while they may have tried to sting me a couple times, they just were pretty calm and they were just protecting their hive. And we got to go in there. The first frame I lifted up, I remembered being so surprised because it's so different than what we picture in our heads.
And so what was it? What was that like? Describe that and how it was different. Describe what you were expecting and what you actually saw.
I was expecting when you crack the top off that hive, it's just a box, and you crack the top off the hive, and you're expecting the bees to swarm your face and having to run away, but you get a smell of, I remember, cookies. It's like a cookie smell that just hits you, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. And you open, so a box is made out of 10 frames. And a frame is like a piece of cardboard. It looks like that, but it's made out of wood, and they build it out with their wax. So I picked that up, and I was so surprised because everyone talks about their hexagon shapes. It's very small hexagons, and there's hundreds of them on this one frame, and you can see the glistening honey and the bees on it. And I was a bit scared to hold the frame, so I let my brother do that, but I still got to see it until I got comfortable with it. Then I started to do it on my own.
Oh, and so once you get the frame out, do you take like a knife or something and just kind of scrape the honey down into a container?
So yeah, there's a whole process of the honey extraction, what we call it. That happens in the early summer, late spring, and you can harvest around 2 to 3 times a year. So the honey process takes a long time. We have a little truck, gator is what we call it. So we go out to the bee yard, take some boxes off, and you have to make sure that there are no bees on there because you don't want those in your honey. Mm-hmm. So we get like a brush, we brush the bees off of the frame, and then we take that frame, put it in its own box, and bring it back to the garage, and that's when you use the knife and scrape the honey off into a big container that spins it.
Wow. Now, what would a bee is just nature just decided, you know what, people are going to love this stuff, so let's just, bees make it and they don't use it for anything, or do bees use honey for something?
So bees have babies. This is how they continue on, but the bees use the honey to feed the baby bees, to feed each other, to feed themselves. and just to store it for the winter, because bees, and as we might know, bears hibernate. Bees also hibernate through the winter. And they might not be sleeping, but they stay pretty dormant, and they stay pretty sleepy throughout there, and they like to eat all of the honey that they store up. But when they produce excess, we like to come in there and take it out and have it for ourselves, because honey's delicious.
And how can you tell what is excess from what they need? Is there some kind of formula?
Oh, good question. So we go out there, and during the spring, you see plants blooming, flowers, everything is blooming. So that's how we know that, okay, so the bees are definitely out there if they're pollinating. So they're bringing back a lot of pollen, and they're creating honey with the nectar. And we check the hives. We go out there and see that, oh, okay, so that whole box that we're talking about is full of honey right now. They have no more space to lay babies. It's full of honey. So that's when we take out honey frames, go through the honey extraction process, and give them new frames to work with to make honey so that we can have the excess honey. So
you're doing them a favor, helping them out.
I mean, I think they appreciate us, and I know we appreciate them.
So 25 hives. How many bees are living in each hive?
A lot of people are surprised by this. Even I was surprised by this, but it's 60,000 bees per hive. And this is close to 1 million bees in our apiary.
I was just going to do the math. Thank you for helping me. 1 million bees. My mind is about to explode. How big is the property that you're living on?
So we live on a farm that's 40 acres, but the bees only take up around 1 acre, and we live in a rural area, so we have to be careful of bears. So we have an electric fence around our apiary so that the bears don't take the boxes and ruin the boxes and stuff like that. So the bees are just on a 1 little acre with an electric fence around them, and that's how we use that part of the land.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how you would be able to tell this, but do bees, visit other hives, or is the bees always know this is my hive, this is where I'm going, and I'm not going to be visiting any other hives?
Yeah, so bees are really smart about that, but at the same time, they get a little confused. If we go out there and we take a bee and we bring them a couple miles away, 3 miles away, that bee will fly straight back home and go to the exact hive entrance. But if we do that and move their hive that they live in only 4 inches, they're not going to know where their home is. They're going to look for a new home because only 4 inches, they'll be confused.
Wow. That's fascinating.
But they're amazing with their sense of direction. And some people may know this, but the wiggle-waggle dance, as it's called, is how they tell the other bees. And that's when they shake their butt in a certain pattern and direction to let the other bees know where the pollen is, where they're finding food, where a location to stay would be. This is how they tell them. And the bees know exactly where the other bees are telling them to go through this wiggle-waggle dance.
Wow. This is going to sound like a silly question. I apologize, but have you been able to figure out the wiggle-waggle dance? Like, if you see them wiggling and waggling, do you know where they're going to go?
Well, I personally don't know where they're wiggling and waggling towards, but I do know that they're doing the dance. I just have no idea where they're going to be going.
And the wiggle-waggle dance, is that something that we'll see in Bizzy's wings?
So the wiggle-waggle dance, I don't want to spoil the book, but it does happen at a certain moment of excitement and partying in the book.
All right.
So we will see the wiggle-waggle dance.
All right. So that would be a really fun thing for a family to kind of get involved in as you're reading with your kids on your lap. Get up and do a little wiggle-waggle and have some fun, get some movement.
I can say I've taken the part of a wiggle-waggle dance once in my life, so I think it's a great thing for a family to do.
So now you've written Bizzy's Wings. It's out there. People are loving it. Are you planning on writing more children's books?
We've been thinking about that. I recently read to a second grade class, and one of the questions they all asked was, "When's your next book coming out? What's your next book coming out?" And I had one little girl even tell me what to write the next book about. So I think I'm gonna get to brainstorming and really think about what the sequel will be.
That's awesome. And one of the things, too, that I love about our conversation tonight is, we talk about reading with your kids. It's the start of what will hopefully be a lifelong conversation with your kids. And, when you're reading with your kids, hopefully that will continue as they get into middle school and high school. And even if you're not sitting down on the couch reading together, you're talking about books that you're reading with each other. You're watching movies and talking about them, talking about music. It seems like your family has taken that to another step where you're keeping bees together and, bonding over that. If a family's out there and they read Bizzy's Wings and they're thinking, hey, this sounds like a lot of fun, what would a family need to do to get into beekeeping?
Yeah, we had that same question when we were thinking about bees. So I would tell you the first step, try to find somebody around you who's taking care of bees. And if you can't find anyone, I would say it would be hard unless you live in Alaska or some area where it's really cold because it's hard for them to survive. But even then they do it there. But try to find somebody around you. If you can do that, try to ask them, because I love taking kids and adults on tours around the apiary and teaching them about it. So I'm sure they would love to teach you about it. And once you get a little acclimated with the whole environment, beekeeping, you are sure you're not allergic. You can ask. People sell bees. It's an interesting concept, but you sell bees. It's a hive with a queen, a couple thousand bees, and you can start with just a singular hive, take care of that, go out there, if you're an adult, you bring the kids. That's what our parents did. That's what we did. We went out, had a hive, took care of it personally, fed it, took care of it, maintained it, and then we ended up with 24 hives. So you never know, and it's a really fun process.
That sounds amazing. I just love this. What's the future hold for you? We were talking a little bit before we started the recording about college, and you're thinking about colleges. Is beekeeping something that you want to do professionally, when you graduate from college, or do you have another vision?
So beekeeping has really broadened my scope on agriculture in general, and I am getting into pursuing an agricultural path in college, and whether that includes beekeeping, which I hope it does a little bit, but I'm interested in agriculture and sort of the medicine, veterinary side of college. And after college, I feel like as a relaxing hobby, I definitely will take up beekeeping.
Well, I have a feeling whatever you put your mind to, you're going to be very successful at. And I look forward to finding out what that is. I also look forward to the sequel to Bizzy's Wings. I'm wondering,
Yes.
Can you give us a hint of what that little girl suggested you write about?
She suggested we write about a brother of Bizzy. And I think that could be a good idea, but I'm not sure. She might go on some other adventure.
Okay.
Bizzy could be going on another adventure, so we'll see.
Awesome.
Keep you updated.
Now, does Bizzy speak with an Italian accent?
Bizzy has a friend whose name is Miela, which is a little Italian sounding, but she does not speak in an Italian accent.
Okay, that's cool.
But you could read it with one.
Hey, you know... Yeah, we could do that. That would be a fun way for an alternate reading. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm really curious. You were saying early on that Bizzy's Wings, Bizzy has this deformed wing syndrome. Is that a real thing that bees can suffer from?
Yes, so it's actually the number one cause of hive death or bee death in America right now. And Asian bees can deal with it because they've adapted over a long time of having the varroa mite. But our European bees in America, they've only been recently introduced to the varroa mite. So the varroa mite, while the bees are growing, they feed off the bees and they chew a little bit of the wings. So and they can devastate whole hives. So when people talk about bee loss in America, they're referencing the varroa mite probably. And this is a serious issue, and that is the leading cause of hive death and deformed wing syndrome.
Yeah. So what can we do to help bees? If you know, I'm not able to be a beekeeper, but I want to help bees and help, you know, we need bees in our lives. What can the average person do to kind of make the world better for them?
Well, I'd say that you could get a good way is if you have a family, you could have a project of planting flowers or buying local honey so that you're supporting your local beekeepers. You're reading books together, planting flowers, just getting yourself educated. And if you want to take that next step, you can own a hive yourself. But starting it off with just buying local, getting educated, and making sure to take note of your surroundings and see what's going on with the environment.
Awesome. Hey, Aris, where can people go to find out more about Bizzy's wings?
So our website has a little blurb and it talks about Bizzy's wings, but you can also find Bizzy's wings on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. So you can learn about the book there, but you can learn about our beekeeping, what we do, on our website.
Awesome. And I only play a mind reader on stage. We need to know what the website address is.
Okay, so the website address is aurorafarmapiary.com, www.auroraapiaryfarm.com, and that's where you can find what we do, what the book is about, our honey, all that sort of stuff.
So we can order some honey from your website?
You can order honey, and you can also order books.
There you go. Books and honey. I can see it now. We're snuggled up on the couch. We have some toast, a little bit of honey, and we're reading Bizzy's Wings together.
That does sound like a good night.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking about Bizzy's Wings and beekeeping and nature and a whole lot of other stuff with the author of the book, Aris Roberts. Hey, Aris, man, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast, and I hope to be here on the future in a sequel book.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Victor Santos. He'll be here to celebrate my dad, my rock. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, if you're the author of a fantastic children's book, you may be frustrated at how very hard it is to let the world know about your book. Fear not. We would love to help you. There's so many ways we can help you celebrate your book. You can be a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Imagine having a chance through a long-form conversation to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. And imagine this. It's really fun. It's really easy. And it doesn't cost you a thing. That's right. It doesn't cost you a thing. Oh, you can also submit your book to our Certified Great Read program. If our panel believes that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Certified Great Read, and that means you get a number of really powerful promotional tools to help your book stand out from the thousands of books that are published every single month. Oh, we also have a wonderful promotion program that can give you a package of commercials here on the podcast, the messages to our 76,000 social media followers, and display your book on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. Learn all about that at readingwithyourkids.com and then click the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Aris Roberts. Please be sure to check out Bizzy's Wings. Also want to thank our sponsor, Astra the Lonely Airplane by Julie Whitney. Get your copy today. My team deserves a big thank you. Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. My beautiful wife deserves a huge thank you for all the support she gives me. And most of all, we think you deserve a big thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.